We had started out on our summer vacation, leaving Long Island with a trailer in tow, heading to California. We were going to visit friends of my parents in Thousand Oaks. I think it was on the way west that we made a change in our normal plans. Our normal camping trip was interrupted by one night in a hotel. Somewhere in the middle of Missouri on July 20th, 1969, we stopped and got a room. My dad is one of those early space geeks, and he passed on that to his three sons. We were all captivated by the prospect of something so far out there taking place that we did not want to miss out on seeing history being made live if we could. I remember getting impatient as we sat on the floor in the hotel room. We had probably already gotten dinner and made sure that everything was lined up hours before. We were waiting for Neil Armstrong to put his foot on the moon. We sat on that floor glued to the TV. Hours went by, nothing seemed to happen. Hours of waiting and watching and afraid to turn away, afraid to go to the bathroom, afraid of doing anything else for fear that we would miss the moment. I personally had something riding on this. See, at the time I was a delivery boy for the local newspaper, which ran a contest among delivery boys that if you could predict the day and time that Neil Armstrong touched down on the moon, put his feet on the moon, you'd get a prize. Tickets to a New York Mets or Giants game. New York Mets or Yankees game. And you knew which one I was going to go to. Shea Stadium all the way, baby. I had picked July 20th, but I couldn't remember exactly the time. Although, I think, as we watched that historical moment take place, I felt I was pretty close to the timing. I recall the excitement and the awe of seeing the image from the moon for the first time. I'm wondering, how is this possible? It was just mind-boggling to me. Well, we finished the rest of our vacation, got home a couple of weeks later. The landing had been parts of conversations throughout the trip. First with my parents' friends in Thousand Oaks, as well as other friends as we stopped to see them on the way home. Who could deny the awesomeness of this accomplishment? I recall writing in a journal I was keeping on that trip. This was so cool. Well, a different reality hit when I got home, and I contacted my supervisor for the newspaper. I asked, so did I win? Because you see, before I talked to him on the phone, I had checked my ticket stub thing that I had attached to the bulletin board in my bedroom. It clearly said June 20th, 1969, 11 p.m. Now, I knew from my journal that I had written down, as I watched Neil Armstrong touchdown, it was 9:58 p.m. in Missouri, Central Time. That meant 10:58 p.m. Eastern Time. I had to be close, if not spot on, and the winner. My supervisor told me no, I hadn't won. Was somebody else closer, I asked? No, he sheepishly said. He had forgotten to turn in the predictions from a couple of the delivery boys, mine included. And then he jokingly said something that later conspiracy theorists would jump all over. You know, because you didn't submit your time, it never really did happen. We're still waiting for it. Oh, it was my first experience with somebody trying to deny science, albeit he was joking. Now, he was so sorry, honestly, that he hadn't submitted my prediction, that he actually gave me 2 tickets to a Mets game that August. And now, I don't want to rub it in too much, But that was the first year the Mets won their first World Series, 1969. Now, I know that I've always liked science. I don't always understand it. I don't always do well in it in school and get great grades in it, but I've always liked it. And I think I've always valued it. I also know that the church at large at times has had problems with science over the centuries. The church's relationship with science is really a mixed bag. There's Copernicus and Galileo, whose ideas about the sun being the universe's center and with the earth orbiting the sun, not well received by the church. The church even went so far as to imprison Galileo, and it took many years for the church to come around to understanding how this now accepted scientific fact. On the other hand, a monk by the name of Gregor Mendel is seen as the founder of the science of genetics. Kind of a mixed bag. And of course, there is that constant struggle between the church over creation versus evolution, as if the two were mutually exclusive for Christians. Well, they're not for me. Evolution is a scientific explanation. Creationism is a faith statement. God created. How did God create? Well, that's still to be determined and understood. See, I've never accepted the fact that creation, in the creation story, a day is 24 hours. I don't quite understand how long God's day is. I also know that evolution is still a theory, but so too is gravity. Neither has been proven by scientific theory, yet most of the evidence falls greatly on the side of evolution, just as most of the evidence falls, pun intended, on the side of gravity as well. Does that mean my faith is invalid? No! The creation stories in Genesis 1 and 2, and yes, there are two different creation stories there, are stories of faith. Stories told to show God's power of creation. Stories told to show that God's power was greater than all the other gods of the past. God who spoke it, and it was done. God who created it once, and it was accomplished. Not like the other creation stories, which were of a cyclical nature, repeated either every year or certainly in whatever cycle that faith's narrative needed. Faith and science, for me, they're two sides of a coin. I invite you to join me tomorrow for more on this two-sided coin in my reflection. But until then, know that I will look forward to seeing you on Sunday in worship on Facebook or on YouTube. And of course, please, please, please remember, wash those hands 20 seconds at a time, a couple of times a day. I've seen kids singing happy birthday as they wash their hands because that's a good 20-second wash. My own grandson now sings that proudly as he washes his hands, and I love that. He's washing because he also has learned that it's in washing that we kill off the germs better than any other way. When you go outside, put your mask on, please. If you can't be 6 feet apart from everybody else, except your own family members, in which case get nice and close, hug and squeeze, and be right on top. But if you're not with family, 6 feet apart and wear your masks. Practice that social distancing, please. And most importantly, let's continue to love one another by respecting and protecting one another. That's what masks do. That's part of the science we're learning. And as Sergeant Esterhaus says, be careful out there.